Hey guys! A few videos ago, we did a standard of living comparison between Malaysia and Singapore, and today is an extension of that video. Judging by the comments left by people in that video, a lot of you seem to be confused between the cost of living and standard of living, which is why in today's video, we're going to explain more on this, and we're going to use two examples which has nothing to do with price.
Hi everyone, I'm John, she's Fran, we are the Corporate Breakout Couple. I'm a Singaporean, Fran is Malaysian. In case you're new to this channel, we are both early retired in the year 2020 in Singapore, and we shifted over to Penang, Malaysia in 2022. So you can say we are both pretty familiar with both countries.
Do give us a like for this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with all your friends so that you guys understand as well what is cost of living, what is standard of living, and much more. First up, let's talk about what is cost of living. Let's understand that clearly first. It is the amount of money required to cover basic necessities like food, housing, transportation, and healthcare. In other words, it's actually the price tag of living in a specific location, for example, Malaysia or Singapore. Standard of living, on the other hand, is all about quality of life. It actually measures the access and availability to material goods and services, as well as public safety, public transportation, infrastructure, and education. Okay, one of the things that we want to cover is actually safety. So standard of living also covers one's safety in a particular country. For example, Malaysia and Singapore. Now, if you are in Malaysia and you're female, it's very rare to find female Malaysians walking alone down a dimly lit road at 9 p.m. onwards at night. In comparison, myself and my female friends have no qualms walking around Singapore even as late as 10, 11 p.m. or even close to midnight.
That's very true. As a born and bred Singaporean who has lived here in Singapore for 40 over years, I find that Singapore has been getting safer and safer over the years. And in comparison with Malaysia, where we are currently staying there for the last 2 over years, even the recent years, it doesn't feel very safe exactly when you go out late at night, whether it's dimly lit streets or just walking at night.
The Singaporean sense of safety in Singapore is very high, which is why whenever they leave that safety bubble, which is Singapore, and they venture overseas for a holiday, they actually tend to let their guard down and not up, and this is the reason why a lot of them actually encounter misfortunes on their overseas trips. In this recent article, 2 Singaporean females traveling to Rome had all their belongings, including their passports and their suitcases, stolen from their rented car. Now, what happened? Well, basically, they left their passports, their money, all their belongings in the car, thinking that the car boot is the safest place to put their belongings when they make a quick pit stop to buy some stuff. I don't think you'll catch a Malaysian doing that, right? Because the crime rate in Malaysia is quite high, and we've been trained to actually be aware of our belongings and keep our belongings with us all the time. Also, it is not a very good idea to put your belongings and everything in the car boot, making a pit stop from the car rental place before you reach a hotel. The good thing for you to do is actually to drive all the way to the hotel, check in, dump everything there in the safety of your room, and then take your passport, your valuables with you, and when you venture out. Over the years, I have many Singaporean friends who have got unfortunate mishaps every time they travel overseas. It could be in JB, in Malaysia. It could also be in Australia, Greece, Italy, right? And what happened to them is always the same tune, which is they leave their belongings in their rented car, they go for a bite to eat, they go and take some pictures because of the scenery, and when they come back, their car windows are all smashed and their belongings are all gone. In Malaysia, we've been well trained to never ever leave our valuables in the car, be it sunglasses, be it an empty backpack, because here's the logic, right? You know that the backpack is empty, but does the robber know that? They don't. So therefore, they take the risk of smashing a car window and taking that backpack. If you think the car boot is the safest place in the car to place your belongings because it is hidden, well, think again. Back in 2005 or 2006, my ex-manager had his laptop stolen. After work, he put his laptop in the car boot, closed it, went for dinner, and then guess what? He went all the way home around 10, 11 something. He parked his car, and then when he opened his cupboard, to his horror, his laptop is gone.
The lesson over here is no matter which part of the world you are at, it is always important to exercise prudence and be cautious about where you put your belongings. Stuff like your passport, your money should always be on you at all times, because something like this can happen and you happen to be in a foreign country. The last thing you want to do is to lose your passport, because that's your only form of identity. For Singaporeans, the high standard of safety is a double-edged sword. Doesn't mean it's safe in Singapore to leave your laptop, your phone on the table and go to the toilet and come back and everything is still there. Doesn't mean it's going to be the same overseas. So the complacency and the assumption that everywhere else is like Singapore shouldn't be there, especially for Singaporeans.
As a Malaysian, and especially as a victim of snatch theft, not once but twice, and my house was robbed as well in Malaysia, I assume that no place in the world is safe, and I take very good care of my valuables, of my belongings, regardless of where I am.
Another measurement of the standard of living is the access to public education. Let's talk about Singapore first, where I'm from. Singapore's educational system has grown leaps and bounds over the years, and that's evidenced by the ranking of the top universities in Singapore like NUS and NTU within the top 20 of the world. Many of us Singaporeans are actually products of the public educational system, starting from primary school to secondary, all the way to higher learning institutes such as polytechnics and universities, getting our diplomas and degrees. Many of these certifications are recognized not only in Singapore but worldwide as well, bringing up the level of marketability of Singapore education.
To add on, do you know when I was working as a headhunter in Singapore for several years, a lot of employers would actually prefer candidates that has degrees from NUS and NTU. Yes, these candidates are actually regarded as the cream of the crop. Now, moving over to Malaysia, I'm sad to say that the standard of public education has actually degraded over the years. I myself actually hold a degree that is from a foreign university. It is not a Malaysian university, and I would say many of my friends do as well. Now, coming to this year 2025, actually a lot of my friends who are still living and working in Malaysia are actually sending their kids to international schools, private schools in Malaysia, because they cannot afford their kids to be studying in the level of the government schools.
One of the key things that I noticed about the public educational system in Malaysia as a foreigner is that there's a split there, especially in the vernacular schools. Now, the vernacular school system based according to the language, which is Malay, Tamil, and Chinese. And because there's a split on emphasis on the first language to be used in that school, after all these guys graduate, there is kind of a split in terms of the common working language between them. Whereas in Singapore, it's actually pretty homogeneous, meaning the first language and that's also the working language is English, followed by the mother tongue, which is Chinese, Tamil, and Malay. So the clean communication between each other when it comes to the workspace is actually in English.
Now, let me attempt to explain this unique situation in Malaysia when it comes to education, okay? Now, I myself came from a national school, which means that all the topics were taught in Bahasa Malaysia except for the English subject. Now, when I went to a private college for my diploma and then subsequently university for my degree, all the topics then were then taught in English, yes? Now, my class had a lot of people that came from the vernacular schools, which means they were strong in their mother tongue, not so strong in the command of English. So what happened next was I became one of the top students in class because my grasp of the command of English was very good. I could understand what was taught easily. Now, the students that came from the vernacular schools, it doesn't mean that they were stupid. Some of them were excellent in mathematics and accounts. However, they still did pretty badly for their exams because they could not really understand the topics that were taught in English. This is also the reason why my friends are sending their kids to international and private schools, because the subjects are actually taught in English and not in either Bahasa Malaysia or Mandarin. You know, they have actually shared with me their kids' results. The kids were actually doing very poorly in the vernacular schools, and then when they transferred them over to the international or private schools, all their grades went up and the kids are actually much happier. So from my sharing, you can actually see that there's actually a very big divide on the educational level, right? And when these kids grow up, the divide will be even more apparent when you go into the corporate world.
With the previous video on standard of living and this video that we have created, it's important to know the difference between cost of living and standard of living. Don't forget, cost of living is typically benchmarked against the median salary in that country. So it's not fair to use cost of living in the perspective of a foreign currency. So cost of living might be high in certain cities in Malaysia, for example, and cost of living in Singapore might be lower if you use the median salary to compare. Now, when we pull you back to the standard of living, which is the access to a lot of public infrastructure, things like cleanliness, things like public transportation, Singapore is very clearly, or rather clearly has a higher standard of living than Malaysia. So the quality of your life, let's say if you are in retirement right now, actually standard of living does have a big part to play. My point is, if you are considering a place whether to work and live or to retire, it is not merely the cost of living, which is the price tag that you should be looking at, but also the standard of living, whether it fits the quality of life that you are looking for. When it comes to choosing a retirement destination, the standard of living plays a huge part, and it's also down to an individual's preference and tolerance. For example, somebody could be okay with a reasonably clean public toilet, kind of functional, compared to a very clean toilet. So it's also down to your individual preference, and the standard of living does have a huge part to play in deciding that.
At the end of the day, it is actually a delicate balance between the cost of living and the standard of living that you want. Both of them have to reconcile, and then you can choose the place that you desire. For example, Denmark and Sweden has very high quality of living, very high standard of living. But guess what? The cost of living there is also equally as high. Would you want to retire in those two countries? When you're looking for a place to either retire or live in, there are actually two questions that you can ask yourself. The first, which is the cost of living, is what can I afford? Second, standard of living is what kind of quality of life do I want? You know that there's no such thing as a perfect country. You can go to any country, name any country, and there will always be pros and cons in that country. So before you select a particular country to retire in or to live in, maybe you're relocating, you need to know your numbers. You need to know what's the cost of living in that country. You also need to know what is the standard of living in that country. And then once you reconcile both, it is then up to your choice, your personal preference, to see whether you want to go to that country or not.
Here's a question for you. What do you look for in a country that you want to live in terms of standard of living, such as the public infrastructure, healthcare, transport, and the list goes on? Let us know in the comments below.
Before we say goodbye to you, remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with all your friends, Malaysians, Singaporeans, and the rest of the world. See you again in the next video. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, do join us for our free masterclass webinars where you are up your financial literacy, break out the corporate rat race, and gun for your financial independence. Do register for it now.